Okay, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn and I run the services at MedComms networking.com and the associated websites. So these are services and activities, resources for people who work in and around the MedComms business globally, by which I mean medical communications, medical education, medical publishing, and indeed resources, lots of resources for people who want to join and work in MedComms. So welcome to everybody. If you haven't had a chance to look at the resources, please go and have a look at medcommsnetworking.com. All being well, we'll get another recording out of this meeting today, and the recordings are all at NetworkPharma TV. So if you've missed any of the many webinars we've now had, go to NetworkPharma TV. You'll find there's over 200 videos now of one sort or another relevant to MedComms. So there's quite a decent resource there that's developing for you all. So today we're running one of our Zoom meetings. Zoom meetings are great because we can involve people from all over basically and extend the reach. So thank you very much today to Caroline, Hamish, Jonathan and Joanna who've come in from 4 different publishers. I'm not going to introduce them, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So on that note, I'd like to start with Caroline to say, hi, who are you, what do you do, and then we'll move on alphabetically through our 4 panelists. Over to you, Caroline.
Thanks, Peter. Hello, everybody. My name is Caroline Halford, and I'm the Digital Publishing Manager for the ADIS journals, which are part of Springer Healthcare, which is part of the bigger Springer Nature. So my role is quite a varied role, but it involves mostly working with the ADIS journals, which are, if you haven't seen them before, these are 33 journals. You have a brochure. If you've ever come to ISMAP, you'll have seen the brochure on our booth. So it's 33 journals. Most famous title potentially is Advances in Therapy, Diabetes Therapy, Pharmacoeconomics, CNS Drugs, Targeted Oncology. These are some of our most popular titles. And the journals are mostly for a readership of healthcare professionals, so primary, secondary care, nurses, pharmacists, decision makers. And what we mostly do is publish clinical research and real world research around medical conditions and the drugs that can treat them. And we also publish a lot of review articles. So some of these are written by ADIS, like our famous drug evaluation reviews, but also we publish a lot of key opinion leader written reviews, really looking at the medical evidence for treating patients. So we're most famous for rapid publication. So all of our journals have a rapid option in some form. Open access is something that we're also well known for. As you probably already know, Springer Nature is the largest open access publisher, and we're really proud to be part of that. Digital features are something that we do a lot of as well. These are gaining in popularity, and I hope this is something that we can talk about later in the webinar. Plain language summaries are also something that we're quite well known for, and these are again are increasing in popularity, and hope to speak about this more. And the pre-submission inquiry service, where we can do take a manuscript and find a home for it within any of the 33 journals. So these are some of the things that people tend to know ADIS for the most. And really, you can find us at springer.com/ADIS. You can also find us at the ISMAP meetings, and you can contact me on LinkedIn, which I encourage you to do afterwards. So the main goals of ADIS are to keep publishing research and reviews that are going to help influence clinical decision making. And also we aim to broaden and maximise the reach of research by finding out how healthcare professionals access literature and to try and make sure that they can find what they need to do for the best decision making. Thanks, Peter.
Excellent, thanks Caroline. I'm going in alphabetical order, so Hamish, you're next on.
Great, well thanks very much, Peter. You have to excuse me as I've got a bit of a cold, so hopefully I can get through the next hour without coughing too much. But my name's Hamish McDougall and I'm the Business Development Manager at Sage Publishing, which is one of the fastest growing STM publishers with over 280 journals across the clinical medicine space. We as a publisher think of ourselves as large enough to be a competent and efficiently run business, but also small enough to be able to dedicate time and effort to our partners and clients' individual requirements. So my role here at Sage is really to act as a first point of contact for publications professionals from the MedComms and pharma industry. So if you have any specific queries, rather than trying to find a specific journal editor or somebody within Sage, please just get in contact with me either via LinkedIn or if you find my email, and I'll be happy to solve your specific queries. So that applies for pre-submission inquiries, journal information requests, and really anything you can think of at all. I'll be more than happy to take your call or your email. I've only got a few minutes, so if you do want some more information on Sage, please do go to the website, or please ask me after the webinar, or refer to last year's NetworkPharma video, which is on Peter's YouTube channel. But I will mention some new developments from this year. So we've soft launched our first rare disease title this year, which is Therapeutic Advances in Rare Disease, and that has a title with an in-house managing editor, as well as an external editorial board as well. The journal will fully launch in January, though it is currently accepting submissions. In the last year, we've also formed a partnership with Research Square, our video abstract vendor, and Sage authors receive a discount should they decide to use Research Square. We've also launched our manuscript visibility plan earlier on in the year, which is really designed to boost the visibility of your individual manuscripts using a number of bespoke services. And if you want to hear more about that, please do get in contact as well. And finally, we also announced our conference services portfolio, which uses our targeted journal audience to help boost the visibility of your conference, symposium, or event, drawing focus to a symposia in a number of ways before, during, or after the event. We also have a MedComms and pharma publication professional microsite, which we've launched this year, which contains all the key information for you guys working in MedComms and pharma. So if you want to hear more about that, please do get in contact afterwards as well.
Excellent. I think that was it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Still going in alphabetical order. Jonathan, you're next on.
Thanks very much, Peter. So my name is Jonathan Patience. I'm the head of commissioning at Taylor & Francis. For those who don't know, Taylor & Francis is quite a major publisher of academic journals. It publishes around 400 medical journals, including the Expert Review and Expert Opinion series, collectively known as the Expert Collection, and including the Dove Press fully open access journals, of which there are about 100, which became part of Taylor & Francis about 2 years ago. Some of our other key titles you might be aware of might be Current Medical Research and Opinion, Postgraduate Medicine, and quite a large range of other medical titles. So I'm happy for anyone to contact me on LinkedIn if they ever have any queries relating to the journals within the medical journals within our portfolio. And also, if you want to know more about our author services that we provide, we do have a dedicated author services site. So if you go to tnfonline.com, you should be able to find out more about our services there. So I just wanted to spend a few minutes just covering what's new with us this year. So I mentioned before Press that which we acquired about 2 years ago. So a major development for us this year is that we've integrated their editorial team with the Taylor & Francis editorial team, which is quite new. Beforehand, we'd kept them fairly sort of on themselves for that time. But one of the benefits of this is that we now have an in-house editor responsible for each subfield of medicine. So for example, there is one in-house editor for the oncology portfolio of journals, and they can act as a one-stop contact for queries about our journals within the oncology field, of which there are several. So that's kind of one of the benefits, is that if any kind of author or someone representing an author or funder would like to find out more about one specific field of medicine and the journals that we publish within that field, then there is someone that we have that you can contact to find out if you might need to know. One of the other benefits of that is that Dove Press have a good track record of having published video abstracts and plain language summaries for a few years now. In terms of video abstracts, we have also published video abstracts in Taylor & Francis for some time, but we've recently released some guidance on how to produce them, what the optimal technical specifications for them are, and the process for how they are submitted, reviewed, and published. We've also updated our journal pages so that Videos are embedded directly into the HTML of articles, not hidden away amongst supplementary material, which is obviously beneficial for increasing article views and video views. All video abstracts also appear in front of the paywall. On plain language summaries, like I said, Dove Press have been doing this for a few years, but at Taylor & Francis, we are able to publish them, but we have historically not been that kind of that great at providing guidance on it. So we've developed a working group to basically put together some an official Taylor & Francis policy on them, release some guidance and best practice for plain language summaries, and to clear information about how these travel through the publication process. We will plan on drawing from Dove's experience through that. Watch this space, because that is likely to come out next year. And then also, I also want to just cover Taylor & Francis' position on the recent released Open Pharma statement, which is that we welcome further discussion that's been led by Open Pharma around making research more accessible. And Taylor & Francis do offer open access options to all of our authors, irrelevant of funding or affiliation.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan, and saving the best till last, Joanne.
Thanks, Peter. Hi there, I'm Joanne Walker. I'm Head of Publishing Solutions at the Future Science Group. Some of our journals can be found behind me. And last year, I took part in the Meet the Publishers sort of workshop that Peter ran. So more information on all our journals and other options that we offer is available through the webinar that's on demand on the MedComms networking website. So I just want to take this opportunity to sort of update everybody on what we've done at FSG this year. So it's been quite a busy year, and we've done a number of initiatives to sort of help enrich and sort of help people engage with our articles that we publish. So in September, we launched the video journal of Biomedicine, which is available at biomedicine.video. So this is a platform for experts to discuss their latest research. So they are open access videos, so anyone can view them. And they are available as expert perspectives, where they're sort of researchers undertaking an interview style video where they update on their latest research or a specific technique or product. And then we also do more uniquely publication perspective articles, where authors provide a complete explanation of their article, again in a sort of interview style format, and it also incorporates essential figures, graphics, etc. from the paper. And the aim is for authors or viewers to get a complete understanding of the paper, and they only then refer to the original publication for further information. And this option is available for authors to discuss any paper, not just those published in FSG journals. So it'll be open to anyone sort of looking to sort of just expand upon their publication. Like most of the publishers as well, we're also working on plain language summaries of publications. And our aim is to produce these as standalone articles as a unique article type within the journal. So there'll be a sort of a 2 to 3 page summary of an article that is developed with sort of patients to be read by patients. And then each PLS will have its own unique DOI. So it will be discoverable through Medline, can be cited, etc. Our editorial director, Laura Dormer, is part of a working group with the Patient-Focused Medicines Development, or PFMD, and she's working on sort of creating our own sort of specific template for this. We do have one tentative project in development, so watch this space, that's what I can say. As well as these sort of plain language summaries, we're also working on infographics to summarize a paper. And again, we're really actively encouraging authors to sort of take this option. Again, they're published within the PDF of the article and also on the HTML, so they're easily discoverable alongside the article. We have an in-house graphics designer who's scientifically trained, so she can take sort of concepts within a paper and create an infographic from it. And there's quite some good examples on our website. And also another thing that we are doing sort of next year as well is we are launching a number of sort of small niche conferences that complement some of our key journals. So for instance, in April, we are launching a real-world evidence conference that's looking at real-world evidence in rare diseases, and that complements our journal, the Journal of Comparative Effectiveness Research. Yep, and that's about it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so that was a whistle stop to around 5 major publishers. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 major publishers, sorry. So thank you very much, guys. And now just a reminder to the audience that we've got online today. At the bottom of your screen, you'll have a chat button and a Q&A button, both of which will call up a text box. So either method, just text in your questions, your comments, your perspectives, and we will be led by you as much as we possibly can be. Okay. Just whilst we're waiting for a couple more questions to start coming to kick that off, I might as well. It's my party, so why don't I just start off? The whole video thing. We as a group, we've all sort of talked off and on for the years. I think we've had a number of panel sessions with you guys on video, enhanced features of video, always part of it. I'm very aware that at the moment this is part of a Zoom webinar. I'm very keen on video. NetworkPharma TV is my, what is it? I don't know, online resource to lots and lots of videos. Video, I think you all mentioned videos and talked about video. But as I say, we have been talking about it for a long time. Is it fair to say that finally we're making some progress and that people are starting to embrace the opportunity that is video? Or are there still practical problems in the way? So I'm going to just bounce around here. Caroline, I'm going to look at you first just because you're in the top left-hand corner. What's your view? And Caroline, we've talked about enhanced features for years. So is it fair to say we're making some progress now, or is it still sort of early days? Are there still practical problems? Go.
Yeah, we're definitely making a lot of progress, for sure. I agree with you, Peter. I think we've been talking about video abstracts for what seems like years, but certainly in the last 2 years, we've seen a big upshift at ADIS with funders and authors actually now much more likely to do video abstracts and lots of digital features. Certainly in the last 18 months have been our busiest ever for doing digital features. We're now publishing a steady stream of them, and we're expanding the team now to be able to cope with the features that we're getting in-house. So yeah, certainly we're seeing that. The reluctance seems to be going away. We now publish quite a lot of video abstracts, but now it's broadening out to podcasts, infographics, audio slides, a real range. So it's nice to see that finally starting to come alive now.
Okay, let's have a big hurrah for that. But is that supported by the rest of you? Jonathan, I'm just going to go around here. Jonathan, would you agree with that?
Yes, I actually totally agree with what Caroline said. I think from our point of view, we've seen more of an influx of video abstracts, and the quality of them is definitely improving. We've seen some really high quality videos coming in, really well received by reviewers. And we have quite kind of a well-formalized process now for reviewing video abstracts and pushing them, and also making sure that they're properly embedded into articles in a way that's more easily viewable. So anyone who reads that, one of the first things they will see will be the video abstract.
Okay, cool. So that's another plus. Hamish, are you, Sage, you still going in the same direction like the others?
I'd say there's been a lot of progress, and I'd say interest is definitely very high, but I'd say uptake on the whole is still pretty low, especially from MedComms and Pharma. So it's probably my most discussed topic with them, and they're very, very interested in it. But I'd say, less than 1% of the manuscripts we get have video abstracts.
I suppose that's what I'm sort of getting at, is that, we can talk about the story, but how much is actually happening in practice? And it's nice to know it's moving forward, but it's interesting that it's still a relatively small number of people. And what are the practical, sorry, Joanne, just to come to you, and I don't know whether I'm setting up here slightly, but I understand, and I'm not sure you said something when you were talking. As I understand it, you've got video-only journals now, haven't you? Or you're moving that direction?
We have one, yes, just a sort of an all-encompassing video journal called the Video Journal of Biomedicine. I mean, at the moment, it mainly hosts videos that we've published across various digital sites, and these are more sort of interview styles. But we do have a couple of videos on there that are, as we call them, publication perspectives. So where there's an author who's published a paper, and they are then discussing, it's about a 10-minute video, and they're discussing the publication in detail, and you can sort of navigate through the article by chapters, etc.
But the intention is that the article is now a video.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay,
So what happens is then that alongside the article on our journal website, there's then a little sort of button that says read more about this article or view the article on the website, the journal website. So people are then directed there. And then in the same way the video is hosted on the Video Journal website, they're then directed back to the original publication.
Okay. That makes sense. So just picking up on Hamish saying that it's still relatively, it's an opportunity that is still not being used. What are the practical problems that say Hamish, just to follow up with your point, what are the practical problems when they all nod their heads and say yes? Why don't they follow through? Is there a particular stakeholder involved in the process, do you think, or something else? I don't know. What's your view on that?
I think it's a mixture of budgets. So obviously having to actually get a budget approved for something like that. Although it doesn't necessarily need to be an issue. If you get your phone and record something very simple, I think that can be a very effective video abstract as well. But also getting clearance from within the company can take some time. So everything needs to be checked to make sure it's not promotional and that they're not saying anything they shouldn't be. So I think those things can, if you need to submit as close to possible as acceptance of the manuscript, those things can cause delays, and then I think afterwards people lose interest.
Exactly. Just to clarify, maybe just a nod from everybody, or not, if it's the case or not. But just to be clear on this, a video abstract can be somebody using their iPhone or whatever to just sort of record themselves, and they can send it to you. That's all fine. You don't need the full production studio. Is that everyone just agreeing, Caroline?
No, yeah, agree. I agree with all the panelists. We've had some really effective, I think some of the barriers we've seen in the past are the perception that a video abstract has to be expensively produced in a studio.
Yeah, that's
certainly not the case. Yeah, I've seen a lot of examples, not just from ADIS, but in other publishers, where the author just talking into the iPhone is absolutely high enough quality. We found that barrier as well, with sometimes cost coming up as an issue of, so we've now at ADIS introduced a facility to create video abstracts for authors. So one of the issues that we've had is the fact that we peer review videos, and there's sometimes a concern that actually, if you submit a high quality video, if we peer review it, then you're going to have to re-record it following the peer review amends. So now we've tried to take that barrier away by, if we can take the manuscript and then help create a video for the authors, we can make sure that we're sort of taking that hands-off approach and making sure that from our side it's reflecting the manuscript. And the authors still get the chance to comment and approve it, and the funder as well, but the peer review process goes alongside the author review. So
okay, but
yeah.
that, practically speaking, that does raise a number of issues, doesn't it? So if I'm an author, I've just published a paper, or I'm about to publish the paper, or I'm submitting the paper. We'll come back to that question in a minute. And I'm being encouraged to do a video abstract, and I just use my iPhone. That's all going to be that's going to be peer reviewed as well. And that
ADIS,
may be a practical problem for ADIS. Yes, yeah.
Certainly, we would only publish peer-reviewed video abstracts, and that's just the ADIS policy, because we see them as part of the manuscript. But I don't know about other publishers.
Okay, so Caroline, it's got to be peer-reviewed. Just very quickly, Joanne, are yours peer-reviewed always? Video abstracts. Let's stick with that.
Typically, yes. I mean, we do, most of that does involve sort of internal review by our internal editors. I mean, and it's what is helpful as well, if perhaps at the manuscript submission stage, that maybe the authors would supply a script that they were hoping to sort of use to the video, then that could then get peer reviewed by peer reviewers alongside the paper as well, and then that would be handy. Okay,
again, we're starting to cover a couple of questions. Let's just keep going with this specific question. Jonathan, video abstracts always peer reviewed or not always?
Yes, always peer reviewed.
Okay.
Yeah. In terms of Joe's point, similar with us as well, we also offer the option of submitting a transcript to get around some of those issues of the cost of producing a video abstract. So submitted, then reviewed, commented on by the reviewers if edits are needed. And then that might reduce the chances of edits needing to be required to the final video. But that final video would also still need to be re-reviewed by those reviewers, just to verify that it's all kind of what was expected from the transcript.
Okay, Hamish, sorry, all your video abstracts always peer reviewed?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to echo basically the same points as Johnny and Joe as well, that we also can peer review the script ahead of time, just if there's a time concern. And people sometimes don't want to necessarily commit to making a video abstract if they don't.
Okay. So that sort of does touch on the real practical problem here, doesn't it? And there's a couple of questions coming up about specific processes and the right time to submit and so on. You've sort of covered that to a point. Is anybody not saying the video abstract goes through the same process as the article? Is anybody not saying that?
It's not exactly the same for us. I mean,
just illustrate it a little bit more, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, it would still be, it's not exactly the same, but because ultimately they're not checking for the same things. They're ultimately checking to see that it's not promotional and that it matches with the content in the manuscript. So it's not necessarily the same process.
So are the reviewers, in-house reviewers, that are checking those rather than your external peer reviewers?
It would be external peer reviewers, though.
Okay, so your external peer reviewer is asked to do something different with the article and the video.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and everyone's not in the head with that, yeah?
Yeah, the same thing for us really. Yeah, exactly as Hamish says, I mean, because the article's already been peer reviewed and accepted, we are really asking the peer reviewers to check that the feature accurately represents the manuscript and it's representing it in a fair and balanced way. For this reason, we will also accept the script for peer review, but we will ask for at least like a storyboard or indication of if there are images that go along with the script. We'd ask for indication as to what images will go alongside it. We've had experience before of some videos come in where the script is what it is, but when we see the final video, sometimes images are used that can potentially highlight more positives than maybe more balancing aspects. So, yeah.
So you can quickly see that, where the practical problems are coming with all of this. So it's not as easy as it sounds, or as I make it sound most of the time. Yes, there you go. And it's probably covered a number of the questions that have come in so far on this. But let's just pick up a couple of specifics. Yeah. Have you got, and just very quick answers to this, I guess, because we could go into more detail with each of individually. But let's just see. Has anyone got an ideal length for a video abstract?
We don't specifically say 8. At ADIS, we don't say like we don't have hard limits, but we say ideally 2 to 3 minutes, no longer than 4 minutes, I would say. Otherwise, the attention spans won't last that long. Okay, is everyone agreeing with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Do you actually sorry? Do you say you don't have a limit? Does anybody have a limit? You cannot have a video for more than X minutes or something, or is that just a bit of recommendation? Anybody? No.
We don't have.
You don't actually limit it.
Okay. But I think that might be something that might be commented on by the reviewers if they were to say actually this is just too long, or and it would go through kind of editorial review before it goes through peer review. So if it was felt that it was too long or it wasn't suitable, then the editor might have a conversation with the author about it.
Okay. Just a couple of specific questions here. Question for Joanna. Publication perspectives, are they peer reviewed?
Yes. Yes, we would get a storyboard submitted before filming takes place.
This is publication perspective for your video journal.
The video journal, yeah. So we'd have a storyboard submitted, and yeah, that will get reviewed. Yeah.
Okay. And can industry researchers submit for that type of article?
Yeah, it's open to everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
And these are professionally filmed videos as well, so the production quality is quite high.
So in the case of publication perspectives, you do it.
Yes, so we've got we have an in-house video team, and we also work with sort of freelance videographers who could then sort of help us, sort of do sort of filming, for instance, in like in the US or other locations as well. Okay,
so simple question. I assume I know the answers, but let's ask a question from Santosh. Any costs associated, Caroline, with ADIS developing video abstracts? I assume there is. So the other question is, are there costs associated with submitting my own video abstract?
Yes, for ADIS, if you want us to create one for you, yes, there are costs associated with that. If you submit your own video abstract, if you submit it with the manuscript or a reasonable time when the manuscript's still going through the peer review process, there are no costs at all. If we offer the authors the opportunity to submit video abstracts after the manuscript's gone online, and if that is the case, then there is a cost associated with that, purely to reflect the fact that we'll have to process that almost like a new submission, contact the peer reviewers again, go through the whole process of reviewing it and processing it separately for the manuscript. So there are discrete costs there.
Okay, so that sort of makes sense. Okay, and I think we've covered Laura's point about the best time to start considering developing video and so on. There's a variety of options there, but the earlier the better is always going to be the point there. Yeah. So we're in danger of making this just about enhanced features and digital, but let's have this question to try and finish this part of the session off. Santosh is asking about do you monitor impact of using digital enhancements on the published manuscript? Caroline, I'm going to let you go with that one initially, and then get a comment from everybody else.
Yes, we partnered with Research Square, well, Springer Nature partnered with Research Square in 2017, and they did a matched cohort analysis looking at articles with digital features and articles without. And they found around an 88% increase in downloads for articles that do have digital features. And here at ADIS, my team, like Debbie and Lydia, have recently replicated that experiment at ADIS. And they found exactly the same. It was around a 60%, 55–60% increase in downloads for articles that have a digital feature. So we are seeing increased impact. Okay, and there's some proof about that behind there. Yeah, which is a key point. I know you've done some of that work. Just very quickly again, guys. So I'm going to be quite quick about this, but I'm going to go. Joe's next on my list. Joe, have you got any evidence of any of this stuff working?
Oh, I mean, you can sort of look at how many times somebody has viewed a video. So, but what impact that has on them then using the information in that article to help, to inform their clinical practice, who knows? But that's the same as reading any paper as well. Yeah. But you can also do something called heat maps on an article. So you can run a heat map through a certain period, and you can sort of see where they've clicked on the page. So you can see, if they've clicked on the digital enhancement, that sort of thing. So that sort of does give some evidence as well that they are interacting with the feature. Okay, and without pinning you down here, would you say that there is evidence that that is working? I think so, yeah. From the heat maps that I've seen, you can see that people are clicking on that specific part of the page. And, from our just the pure analytics from the videos that we've published, you can see that they do have good reach. Okay. I mean, you sort of think people should be tempted into that sort of content, but that's always been a bit of the question mark, is how worthwhile is this stuff? Jonathan, have you got any data evidence to back up any of this? Yeah, I would say it's similar to what the others have said. I mean, we have found that it's been quite difficult for us to directly correlate the viewing of video abstracts to the articles themselves. And so that might be something that we might look into now that we've started to receive more of an influx of video abstracts. I think in the past, we probably haven't had enough of a volume of video abstracts really to make any kind of firm conclusions. But hopefully it might be something we can do in the future. Okay, Hamish, have you got a comment on that one just to finish off?
I mean, it's very similar to Caroline's, as we're also partnered with Research Square, and I will refer back to that study and just to highlight another couple of points. But they showed out metric scores were something like 140% higher, which is quite an impressive stat. And also articles were ranked about 40% higher as well. So it is really convincing data, and it's across about 100 papers. So it's definitely convincing. Okay, so we're getting there. And just to broaden this out into social media, and your little video abstracts, 2-minute video abstracts ought to be good for social media. Again, any comments? Can we just run around quickly? Any comment, any evidence that this is actually working out there? Hamish, I'm going to start with you. Yeah. Sure. I mean, just to go back to that last point as well. I mean, I think that increase in our metric score of about 140% is a really strong indicator that it is being shared on social media. And if you actually look at the breakdown of that, a lot of it is places like Twitter and things like that as well. Okay. Any more comments or any disagreements with that? Joanne? Jonathan? No, Joanne? Yeah. No, I think that's about right. Yeah. Okay, Caroline, this is sort of I know this is a bit of a thing for you. So social media and supporting publications, all going in the right direction. Yeah. I agree entirely with Hamish. What we see is, well, we know for a fact that Twitter content with images do get a lot more attention than ones without. And we've often seen and also has a digital feature or something like a PLS, if they take a screenshot from that video to alert the Twitterati of the article, it certainly does have an impact on the readership. So social media is a great tool for spreading the word about features. Okay, cool. All right, let's not just turn this completely into an enhanced features digital sort of meeting. Let's broaden the discussion a little bit here. So let's just talk a bit on open access. You're all basically publishing open access now, yeah? Just as can I ask this provocatively, maybe? But are there barriers? Have you any journals that have barriers to
pharma companies funding open access articles? No? Anyone got them? Anyone want to talk about that? With some of your journals, you've got in-house journals, you've got medical society journals. Just as a comment, I'm just genuinely interested. Is there a difference there? Do some of you have medical societies who are in some way putting up more barriers or challenges? Does that happen?
I mean, I'd say that's definitely true. Some societies are a little bit more resistant to pharma-funded articles and pharma-funded open access. But I think on the whole, the vast majority are open to it, and even the ones that might put up some barriers ultimately will be interested in disseminating medical science. And so, if they see the value in the article, they will still publish it.
Okay, all right. Everyone nodding their heads at that one. And which leads into the whole question of patient access to information and PLS and so on. So, and this has been a subject which we've covered in a number of webinars and stuff recently. So it's very much top of my mind at the moment. And I think you all mentioned PLS. Either you're now doing it or you're about to do it or whatever. But the PLS, the plain language summaries, yeah, which there's some debate around how much this is for patients as opposed to just widening access and patients can access and so on. Let's just have a few minutes from each. Getting some comments from each of you as to how PLS is developing within your organisation and how successfully so. Can I, Jonathan, I'm going to start with you for what it's worth this time.
Sure, yeah. I touched on that a little bit in my introduction. Dove Press have been publishing PLSs for about 3 years now. They've seen sort of an increase, year-on-year increase in uptake. One of the things that we are hoping to do is to kind of use some of their kind of experience and expertise to apply to the rest of the Taylor and Francis journals in our portfolio. And so as part of that, we've set up a working group of a number of key kind of people involved in that within the company to kind of first of all analyze what the impact of PLSs is on article views and what their value is to community, and then also if we sort of find that yes, this is something that people want, is helpful for a readership of articles, then we would then look to create some sort of more formalized guidance on what those should entail, and how you'd go about writing and submitting them. So that's essentially what we're working on at the moment and hoping to kind of really release some sort of clearer guidance on next year.
Just so specific question, and just out of interest, with your journals, if I want to submit a PLS, does the platform allow it at the moment, or is there a practical problem there?
So yes, so if you want to submit a PLS, you can do, and the way we'll do this is we'll review it alongside the manuscript with regular peer review. So yes, so you can still submit them. I think where we need to kind of improve is basically developing clearer guidelines on that. Also, whether we want to kind of be actively encouraging it more from authors. So that's kind of what we're trying to kind of figure out at the moment.
Okay. Joe, have you got a comment on that one?
Well, yes, actually. So, I mean, we are looking to, as I mentioned, we're looking to develop PLS as sort of specifically a unique article within our journals. We're actually working on one at the moment. This is of a research article that was actually published in Lancet Oncology, and we are then looking to develop a PLS to publish as sort of a standalone article in one of our journals. And I mean, it's been quite a long, complex process because it's trying to find the level of the language, and even from practicalities, the design of the PLS, how it's going to look on the HTML, that sort of thing. So it is being quite a long process. But once we have gone through that process, we're hoping to sort of share that information to try and sort of encourage us and maybe even other publishers doing it for their journals as well, as sort of making this a unique article. I mean, I think the key with these is that they have to be open access and they have to be accessible for patients, and they also need to be discoverable. So they can be on Medline, or they could be, if it's on a specific disease, perhaps we could make them available to sort of host on that sort of that patient website or something like that.
Okay. Hey, Hamish, have you got a comment on that one?
So we don't necessarily have a one-size-fits-all approach for PLS. So we fully support their submission in, and I'd say in the vast majority of our open access journals, you can submit PLS. We do have some journals where they're sort of mandated. So for example, one of our titles, Therapeutic Advances in Drug Safety, is very heavily patient-focused, and also our rare disease title that's launching, again, is going to be very heavily patient-focused. So they have mandated PLS submissions, but it changes depending on the journal.
Okay, and it's interesting the way you're talking, and Joe, it's sort of an assumption that PLS is aimed at the patient, and that's where I still get a bit confused in discussions as to how far it is for the patient as opposed to just opening up the access.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is the level, that is one of the points that we've had, is the level of the language. I think that our idea is to go for the informed patient.
Okay.
So patients who already have some sort of background knowledge on their condition, because the idea is that people who are looking for literature on recent publications are going to have some background knowledge. So that is the pitch, and it's also then can be sort of read by sort of nurses and perhaps other individuals who might not have as complex a knowledge about treating a disease, that sort of thing. So it is and then it's kind of like, well, then do you get different levels of PLSs? Do you get sort of even plainer PLSs, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very difficult to sort of know the language to use. I mean, our journals have a option when submitting an article to feature a lay summary, which is just sort of a very short, brief sort of summary of the abstract. And then again, the language, the lay language that is used in those differs greatly as well.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So you've already got a lay language abstract in place already, and you're looking at PLS. So as you say, you're starting to slice and dice, and it's coming up with a number. Which again is a sort of practical issue, I'd have thought. Caroline, I'm sort of coming to you at the end because I know you're doing some work on this. So Caroline, what's the position with you on PLS?
Well, we've been publishing these at ADIS since 2017, and we've certainly seen a big uptake. It's not like we've specifically advertised this as a key thing. It's just almost silently gone into the editorial manager sites. So we published around 80 this year. We published only 7 in 2017, so it's really taken off. And yeah, I would agree with Hamish in the fact that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We're certainly, our main point is that we are really not seeing these as just for patients. We are, I mean, it would be wrong for ADIS to sort of forget that our main audience is healthcare professionals, but also to understand that, of course, patients and other interested members of the public might want a background on a trial. So we're really trying to encourage just to also to just take the jargon out of an article and write them for a broad audience. So they can be sort of doctors, just generalists, as well as patients. And I think that will take, I think it will take a lot of working out in terms of the language. We certainly shouldn't be dumbing anything down or patronising, because as we all know, especially for chronic diseases, patients are obviously really well informed. So trying to find balance, I think, will take a bit of time in terms of language. Okay.
Now, what I'm going to do, I've got 1 eye on the clock, and I'd like to wrap up with one very quick question, and this might be a simple yes/no answer, okay? Or if not, can we be brief? But I'd just like to put this out there. Just each of you, I'll go with Caroline first. Have you got patients involved on editorial boards and peer review processes?
It's a good question. I think we are engaging with patients on some of the journals, but it's not across the board as yet.
Okay, so I'm going to keep this very brief. Joanne, I'm just going in this order.
We are starting to engage with patients. So my colleague Laura is part of a working group that's developing plain language summaries. So we are starting to put a sort of a panel together of patient advocates, patients, etc., who can help us with our plain language summaries.
Okay, but broader than that, in terms of the peer review process or the or actually on the journal editorial boards, any steps in that direction?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, all right. Jonathan, anything at your end?
Yeah, same with Joe. At the moment, we don't have patients involved in peer review or editorial board, as far as I'm aware. I can't speak for all the journals, but I'm pretty sure that we don't.
Okay, all right. Hamish, just a quick finish from you.
Across the board, no, but we do have quite a few patient-centric journals that do have patients on the editorial board and in the review process. But yeah, for the vast majority, I'd say no.
Okay. All right. No, I find that an intriguing possibility for the future. Maybe that's where I'm going with that. Okay. Look, I have got an eye on the time. It's a little bit later than I wanted, so I'm going to wrap up for the video recording. I'm going to wrap this up. Okay, guys. A huge thank you to you. What I will say to the audience who are listening to us at the moment: don't all rush away. We can still carry on talking to the top of the hour, but just for now, I'd like to say huge thanks to all of you for the panelists for joining in. Remind you again, they've all said it, so please do follow up on LinkedIn. Is the easiest way of getting in touch with them. So please make the connections there. So on that note, huge thank you to the audience, huge thank you to everybody. I'm going to stop the recording, so I'm just going to ask everybody to give a wave and say bye-bye. So bye-bye.